Hey everyone, it's Treasure of. So you're walking through the fish store and you see this fish. It's got this cool iridescent sheen, a couple of distinct spots, and it seems to be just chilling. That, my friends, is the three-spot gourami, also known as the blue gourami, opaline gourami, or gold gourami. Seriously, it's like the fish version of a superhero with a bunch of secret identities. They're one of the most popular fish in the aquarium hobby for a reason. They're hardy, they're beautiful, and they have a ton of personality. But, like any pet, bringing one home isn't as simple as just adding water. Now, before you go all in and commit to one of these aquatic gems, there are a few things you absolutely need to know. Think of this as your pre-flight checklist before launching your Gourami mission. We're going to dive deep into the world of these amazing fish, covering everything from the size of their world to what they like to eat and even who they like to hang out with. It's easy to fall in love with their looks, but a successful fish keeper knows that what's on the inside, of the tank that is, counts the most. So, I've put together the top 10 things you must know before welcoming a three-spot gourami into your home aquarium. We're going to break down each point, step by step, so you can be the best fish parent possible and give your new friend the 5-star resort experience they deserve. Trust me, getting this right from the start will save you a ton of headaches and lead to a much happier, healthier fish. Ready to become a gourami guru? Let's get started. Alright, first up, let's talk real estate. You might see these guys as little juveniles in the store, maybe an inch or two long, and think, oh, a little 10-gallon tank will be perfect. I'm here to tell you to pump the brakes on that idea. That tiny fish is going to grow and grow and grow. A full-grown 3-spot gourami can reach up to 6 inches long, and for a fish that size, a small tank is like living in a closet. The absolute bare minimum tank size I would ever recommend for a single adult is 20 gallons, but honestly, that's cutting it close. If you really want to see them thrive, you should be looking at a 30-gallon tank or larger, especially if you plan on having any other fish in there with them. Think of it this way. A larger tank isn't just about swimming room, it's about stability. More water volume means that the water chemistry, things like ammonia and nitrates, is much more stable and less prone to sudden, dangerous spikes. It gives them space to establish their own territory, reducing stress and aggression, which we'll talk more about later. It's the difference between being stuck in traffic and cruising on an open highway. Giving them that extra space is one of the single best things you can do for their long-term health and happiness. So when in doubt, always go for the bigger tank. Your gourami will thank you for it. Okay, you've got the mansion. Now you need to get the climate control just right. 3-spot gouramis are pretty tough cookies, which is part of why they're so popular. But that doesn't mean they can live in just any old tap water. They come from slow-moving warm waters in Southeast Asia, like swamps and marshes. So we want to replicate that environment as best we can. The sweet spot for temperature is between 74 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 23 to 28 degrees Celsius. Keeping the temperature stable is key, so a reliable aquarium heater is a non-negotiable piece of equipment. Wild temperature swings are super stressful for fish and can make them susceptible to getting sick. Now let's talk chemistry. For pH, these guys prefer water that is slightly acidic to neutral, so aim for a range between 6.0 and 7.5. Most tap water falls somewhere in this range, but it's always a good idea to test your source water so you know what you're working with. As for water hardness, they aren't overly picky, but they do best in softer water, somewhere between 5 and 20 DGH. Don't let all these numbers scare you. The most important thing is consistency. Fish are incredibly adaptable, but they can't handle rapid changes. So pick a spot within these ranges, get your tank stable, and keep it there. Regular water changes are your best friend in maintaining this perfect aquatic paradise. This is a huge one, and where a lot of people run into trouble. 3-spot gouramis have a bit of a reputation. They're often sold as peaceful community fish, but the reality is a little more complicated. Think of them as having a Jekyll and Hyde personality. As juveniles, they're usually pretty chill and get along with everyone. But as they mature, especially the males, they can become territorial, and let's just say, a bit of a bully. They can be particularly aggressive towards other gouramis or any fish that looks similar. Long flowing fins are a big no-no. So fish like bettas or fancy guppies are often a recipe for disaster. So who can they live with? You want to choose tank mates that are robust, a similar size, and can hold their own without being aggressive themselves. things like larger tetras, like bleeding hearts or black skirts, Corydoras catfish, placos, and rainbow fish can be excellent choices. You want fish that occupy different areas of the tank. Since gouramis tend to hang out in the mid to top levels, bottom dwellers like cories are perfect because they'll mostly stay out of each other's way. The golden rule is to avoid anything too small that could be seen as a snack, and anything too flashy or aggressive that might trigger the gourami's territorial instincts. Always have a backup plan, like a divider or a spare tank, just in case things don't work out. Let's talk about food, because a well-fed fish is a happy fish. In the wild, three-spot gouramis are omnivores, meaning they eat a bit of everything. They'll snack on small insects, larvae, tiny crustaceans, and even some plant matter. So, in our aquariums, we need to provide them with a varied and balanced diet to keep them in top shape. Just dumping in the same old flakes every single day isn't going to cut it. That's like you eating nothing but saltine crackers for your entire life. You'd survive, but you wouldn't be very healthy or vibrant. A high-quality flake or pellet food designed for tropical fish can be the staple of their diet, but it should only be the starting point. To really make their colors pop and keep their immune system strong, you need to supplement that staple food. This is the fun part. You can offer them frozen or live foods like brine shrimp, daphnia, and bloodworms a few times a week. Think of it as a special treat that's also super nutritious. They will also appreciate some vegetable matter. You can give them blanched vegetables like zucchini, spinach, or shelled peas. Just make sure to remove any uneaten food after a few hours to keep the water clean. And be careful not to overfeed. A common mistake is to give them too much food. A good rule of thumb is to only feed them what they can completely consume in about 2 minutes, once or twice a day. If you're looking for a fish with some serious personality, you've found it. Three-spot gouramis are intelligent, curious, and interactive. They'll learn to recognize you and will often come to the front of the glass when you approach, hoping for food. One of their most fascinating behaviors involves their 2 long, thread-like ventral fins. These aren't just for decoration, they are highly sensitive feeler fins, packed with sensory cells. They use them to touch and explore their environment, kind of like how we use our hands. You'll see them extending these feelers to investigate new objects, plants, and even other fish. It's their way of seeing the world up close. Now, for the other side of their personality. As we touched on before, they can be territorial. This behavior is usually more pronounced in males, who will stake out a section of the tank as their own and defend it from intruders. You might see them flaring their gills or chasing other fish away from their chosen spot. This is why having a large tank with plenty of hiding spots is so crucial. It allows other fish to retreat and avoid conflict. Another classic gourami trait is that they are labyrinth fish. This means they have a special organ that allows them to breathe atmospheric air directly from the surface. So don't be alarmed when you see your gourami darting to the top for a gulp of air. It's completely normal and super cool to watch. So you've mastered their care, and now you're thinking about the pitter-patter of tiny fins, breeding three-spot. Gouramis can be an incredibly rewarding experience, but it requires a bit of a setup. Like their cousin the betta, gouramis are bubble nesters. The male is the architect here. When he's ready to breed, he'll find a calm spot at the water surface, often under a floating plant leaf, and begin building an intricate nest out of air bubbles held together by his saliva. It's a pretty amazing piece of natural engineering. He'll then try to entice a female under his nest to spawn. To trigger this behavior, you typically need a separate breeding tank. This tank should be shallower, around 6 to 8 inches of water, with very calm water and a warm, stable temperature. Lots of floating plants like water sprite or hornwort will give the male anchor points for his nest and make the female feel secure. After the male coaxes the female under the nest, they'll perform a spawning embrace where he wraps his body around hers. She'll release eggs, which he will fertilize and then carefully collect in his mouth and place into the bubble nest. After spawning is complete, it's critical to remove the female, as the male will become extremely protective of the nest and will aggressively drive her away. He will then single-handedly guard the eggs and fry until they are free swimming. Let's talk about water movement. This is a subtle but really important detail for keeping gouramis happy. Remember where they come from? We're talking about rice paddies, marshes, and slow-moving streams. These are not environments with raging rapids. Therefore, three-spot gouramis do not appreciate strong water currents in their tank. A powerful filter output that creates a whirlpool effect in the tank is a major source of stress for them. They have to constantly fight against the current, which is exhausting and unnatural. Think about trying to have a relaxing day at home with a giant industrial fan blowing on you 24/7. You wouldn't like it, and neither do they. So, what's the solution? You still need excellent filtration to keep the water clean, but you need to manage the flow. A hang-on-back filter is a great option, but you may need to baffle the output. You can do this easily by placing a piece of sponge over the outflow or by positioning a tall plant or decoration directly in front of it to break up the current. Canister filters are another fantastic choice because you can often adjust the flow rate and you can position the spray bar against the glass or point it upwards to diffuse the current across the surface. The goal is clean, healthy water with gentle movement. A calm surface is also important for them to be able to breathe and for males to build their bubble nests if you're trying to breed them. If you want to see your gourami's true, confident personality, you have to make it feel safe. And honestly, the number one way to do that is by providing plenty of cover. An empty, barren tank is, well, a recipe for a stressed out, insecure fish. In the wild, they'd be surrounded by dense vegetation, which offers protection from predators and a place to retreat. Replicating this in your aquarium is really essential. Think of it as furnishing their home. You wouldn't want to live in an empty room with glass walls, right? You want a couch, some walls, places to feel secure. Plants, driftwood, and other decorations provide that security for your fish. Live plants are the absolute best option. They not only provide cover, but also help improve water quality by consuming nitrates. Tall, leafy plants like Amazon swords, Vallisneria, and Java fern are excellent choices because they create a sort of underwater forest for the fish to explore. Floating plants like frogbit, red root floaters, or even the leaves of a tall plant reaching the surface are also a huge hit. Gouramis love to hang out under the shade of floating plants, and it gives males a perfect anchor point for their bubble nests. If you're not ready for live plants, silk plants are a good alternative. The key is to densely plant the back and sides of the tank, leaving an open swimming area in the front. This gives them the best of both worlds, security and space. The old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, could not be more true in fish keeping. It is honestly so much easier to prevent diseases than it is to treat them. The good news is that three-spot gouramis are generally very hardy fish. If you're providing them with the proper environment we've been talking about, a large tank, stable water parameters, a good diet, and low stress, you've already won 90% of the battle. Most fish diseases are brought on by stress, which weakens their immune system and makes them vulnerable to pathogens that are often already present in the water. So, your first line of defense is simply good, consistent care. However, it's still good to know what to look out for. Like many freshwater fish, they can be susceptible to common ailments like itch or white spot disease, which looks like tiny grains of salt sprinkled on the fish's body and fins. Fungal infections, which look like white cottony growths, and fin rot are also possibilities, usually brought on by poor water quality or injury. The most important preventative measure, besides great water quality, is to quarantine any new fish. Seriously, get a small separate tank and keep any new additions in there for at least 4 to 6 weeks before adding them to your main display tank. This gives you time to observe them for any signs of illness and prevents you from introducing a disease that could wipe out your entire established community. When you bring a fish home, you're making a commitment, so it's good to know how long that commitment might be. With proper care, a three-spot gourami can live for a surprisingly long time. We're not talking about a year or two. A healthy, well-cared-for gourami can easily live for 4 to 6 years, and some have even been reported to live closer to 8 years. This is why getting their setup right from the very beginning is so important. You're not just setting them up for a good week or month. You're investing in their long-term health for years to come. This makes the initial effort of getting a larger tank and the right equipment totally worth it. In terms of growth, they start small but don't stay that way. You'll typically buy them from the store when they're about 1.5 to 2 inches long. They grow relatively quickly for the first year, and you can expect them to reach their full adult size of 5 to 6 inches within about 18 months to 2 years. Their growth rate depends heavily on diet, water quality, and tank size. A fish kept in a small, cramped tank may have its growth stunted, which is incredibly unhealthy and can lead to a shortened lifespan and other health problems. So, providing them with ample space and a great diet from day one ensures they can grow to their full, magnificent potential and live a long, happy life with you. And there you have it, the top 10 things you absolutely must know before bringing home a 3-spot gourami. We've covered everything from their real estate needs and climate control to their social lives and favorite foods. As you can see, there's a bit more to it than just adding water. These fish are living, breathing creatures with specific needs, and it's our responsibility as their keepers to meet those needs. Taking the time to set up their world correctly before they even arrive is the single most important step you can take. It's the foundation for a long, healthy, and rewarding relationship with your new aquatic friend. Remember, every time we bring a pet into our lives, we're making a promise to care for it to the best of our ability. Responsible fish keeping means doing your research, being patient, and putting the animal's welfare first. It means understanding their natural behaviors and creating an environment where they can not just survive, but truly thrive. The reward is getting to observe a tiny piece of a vibrant underwater world right in your own home and building a connection with a fascinating and intelligent creature. It's a journey that is absolutely worth the effort. So, if you're ready to provide the right home and you're excited by their unique personality, the 3-spot gourami might just be the perfect fish for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this guide helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of aquariums. Keep learning, stay curious, and as always, practice responsible fish keeping. We'll see you in the next video.